All right. Just going to be discussing something that is kind of ironic slash sad slash tragic, but also obvious and quite telling and edifying to those who will be honest and admit what is actually going on. Um, so, without further ado, this has to do with two individuals, but without having to necessarily have to be, uh, you know, making this a so-called uh, expose or a personal dig or um, making it be about personalities. This is about um, discernment. What is actually going on here? So let's take a look here. A lot of you might be aware of who I'll be talking about, and it's regarding the individuals on the screen, Mr. David Wood and Mr. Andrew Wilson on the right. David Wood is Christian. Both men, claim to be Christian. Andrew Wilson is a Orthodox Christian, and David Wood is a non-identified uh, type of Christian, but nonetheless, he's evangelical or a non-denominational. As far as the internet goes, I'm not sure. I'm not aware if he identifies with a particular, you know, category of Christian. And of course, that's the whole point of the contention between uh, so-called factions. Now, the reason why this is relevant to what we should actually be aware that is happening in so-called Christian circles, primarily online, but also as a general, right? Because most people nowadays get their uh, confirmations or biases, bolstered or strengthened from what they consume online. So, of course, there has been in the recent months this kind of back and forth between so-called evangelicals or non-denominational Christians and the Orthodox Church or Catholic Church, right? But of course, that's a age-long kind of dilemma or point of contention, even though they supposedly agree on um, the principal things, right? On the core doctrines. Now, however, on the online space, there's been kind of this friction between Eastern Orthodox and you know non-denominational apologetic channels on YouTube or online, and accusations have been thrown both from both sides, but primarily from the Eastern Orthodox side towards the Protestant side or the non-denominational side of apologetics, saying, well, why are you only debating Muslims? Why are you only debating atheists? Why aren't you debating within your own circles to see if in fact you are worthy to be essentially ministering or preaching or teaching Christianity or representing Christianity to the unbeliever. Because who or what is the true church? So according to the Eastern Orthodox, of course, they would say it's them. The Catholics also would say that it is them. Now, the Protestants or the non-denominationalists or whatever you want to call them would say, well, the body of Christ, the consistency of the believers are the church. But of course, then that goes into the discussion of, well, under what authority and what accountability and under what essential or under what or upon what platform or foundation do you claim to have authority over the scriptures or over the representation of Christianity or what a Christian is, what they should be doing, what are their traditions, etc., etc. Now, that's kind of like the backdrop of, or the background of this kind of what fomented to be this debate between David Wood and Andrew Wilson. But of course, there's further nuance there. Primarily in this context, it's because the Eastern Orthodox side of things, primarily through the Jay Dyer channel or himself, Jay Dyer himself, basically agreeing with a Muslim apologetic channel that Avery from God Logic channel is a grifter. Because apparently Jay Dyer, who is an Eastern Orthodox, went on one of the Muslim apologist sites or comment thread and agreed with the position from this Muslim apologetic channel that said that God Logic was a grifter, and Jay Dyer went on that platform and left a comment agreeing. He just said, bingo, confirming, affirming, confirming, or condoning the statement, the attack, the assertion, the claim that God Logic is a grifter. Now, of course, David Wood, being friends with Avery and being on the basically category that could be associated with the whole Christian apologetic side outside of the EO or Catholic Church, he himself would be among those who the Muslims have been attacking or consider. He would be included in the camp of so-called grifters, according to the Muslim Dawas or the apologists, whatever they call themselves. And so, since David Wood started calling out that why is Jay Dyer going on, the opposition pages or channels and basically giving the enemy ammunition to come and further slander Christianity as a whole, is David Wood's position. He's like, that's a very bad idea, very bad tactic, very unreasonable, and, in fact, should be called out as a wrong. And of course, Mr. Wilson is out here defending Jay Dyer and throwing all sorts of, just what I would call just ridiculous arguments to kind of muddy the waters and appear as though he is, making David Wood stumble and sound silly and gaslighting, almost, this type of gaslight tactic of saying, no, well, you're actually the liar. Forget Jay Dyer, claiming that God Logic is a grifter without any evidence. No. David Wood, you're the liar for calling out for calling out Jay Dyer. How dare you? It's just amazing. But all this to say that these men are double talkers. I'm not convinced. And perhaps many of you aren't either. But nonetheless, here we find ourselves. I'm not convinced that these men actually are out there with the intention of actually representing Christianity to its fullest of truth according to their own conviction. I believe that they are part of the whole theater involved in bringing people under the same pseudo Christianity through the ecumenical work originating from the Vatican and essentially being tools, whether they know it or not, to basically swipe Christendom at the knees and present this powerless version of a co-opted, neutered, anemic philosophy that they call Christianity. So it's by design, and I don't think it's a coincidence that, these, whether or not they're, legitimate points of contention, they come across as being points of contention. Of course, the argument could be made that these are staged, right? These kind of beefs between online personalities and these events are staged to kind of create this reality TV type drama, and when in fact they're all in on it, they're just kind of carrying out this script. Nonetheless, let's just see what they say coming out of their own mouths. And then we'll see how consistent they are, because this man, specifically on the right here, Andrew Wilson, boasts of how he is just supremely logical. He has the most logical arguments, and he actually claims that he came to Christianity from the kind of logical side of things, right? He was not, a serious Christian until he kind of started being really logical about it. And it was the Eastern Orthodox Church that provided all the logical, answers to the logical questions he had. And so therefore he's an Eastern Orthodox Christian. So he was convinced by the institution of Eastern Orthodoxy because of their logic. Those are his own words. Okay, amazing. So let's take a listen. So first of all, David Wood is going to kind of set the scene here. And I want to kind of make this pretty much compact. I don't want to listen to the whole. I mean, this quote unquote debate, of course, it lasted about 4.5 hours. We're not going to sit here for 4.5 hours, but I do want to present the context.
And so people are attacking Avery. And let me go a little back because, so this is Orthodox Muslim. So this is Libiano. And he's a guy who, on other issues, like his friend is the one who punched Chris in the face in London. And then they'll all say, oh, we don't condone violence, but he clearly does. He tells Christians that if they, approach him like that, they'll be consciously edited out of existence. So that's just threatening people with terms that would not be normal. So you can have some plausible deniability. But on other issues, here's the Orthodox Muslim with Mohammed Hijab on posting a video on God Logic's wife, Christina, Lady Logic, being a whore, and then making a video and cackling hilariously at that. And then, of course, after this, we've got Jay Dyer. Now, I wasn't paying attention to the back and forth because I really don't care. If people want to, if Protestants and Eastern Orthodox and Catholics want to argue about the things, that's totally fine with me. But first, they were saying that Avery basically rated Life's live stream, and then Life rated, I think, JP's live stream where he was debating Eastern Orthodoxy or something like this. So the online Orthobro community went after Avery for that as if he's going after Eastern Orthodoxy. And oddly enough, later on, they concluded no. Well, basically the story changed that Avery is a grifter because he doesn't attack Christians with different beliefs and so on. So this proves that he's a grifter. But we have it here from the Orthodox Muslim. Again, this is the guy who calls Avery's wife a whore and so on. My 2 cents on what's going on with the Orthobros and Avery. Avery is not interested in your true church, as a matter of fact. He doesn't give a flying donkey's ass about any church being true. He wants to appeal to as many Christians from all denominations to make as much money as possible. This is why he's friends with Sam, yet friends with Sam's arch enemy, David Wood. He's friends with the Orthobros, but also friends with anti-Orthobros. This guy is a grifter. Wake up. And so you could, if you know Avery, he just doesn't like to get involved with the disputes and so on. But for Orthodox Muslim, this actually proves that he's a grifter. And then you have the response from Jay Dyer. Jay says, bingo. So he agrees with this. Doesn't mean he's agreeing with anything else Orthodox Muslim says, but he's agreeing that Avery is a grifter who doesn't spend his time attacking other Christians because he wants to make as much money as possible. So it's not because he doesn't want to get involved in the inter-Christian debates. And it's not because he wants to focus on Islam or cults or anything. It's because he is a grifter. You got that from...
Now, I personally am more on the side, I would land more on the side that perhaps, I would say that it is not unlikely that all these personalities, right, with these platforms, predominant platforms online, are there for a reason. They're not grassroots. They're not ordinary people like what do they call them, like plain Janes or John Smiths. They're there and they have people to answer to. They have handlers, so they're the face of the work to be done, but behind them is a whole conglomerate of moving levers, if you will. So, sure, it very may well be that God Logic is a grifter. Now, you've heard me say that I found his response of the pointing out that Jesus said that he would return in that generation, and then apparently God Logic's response is to say that, John, the apostle, actually had a vision given to him by the angel of the Lord, and where he saw the return of Jesus coming in the clouds. So he fulfilled, the verse in the New Testament where Jesus said, "This generation shall not pass," or excuse me, there are some of you standing here that will not taste death before you see the Son of Man return, right? So that to me speaks volumes of that he is dishonest. He's not being honest with what the Bible says. So he contradicts this when he says, "We just read the Bible, folks." No, because in that example, which is a very important key piece of the Bible, because it speaks to the whole entire validity of God's word. Did he fulfill it, or was he mistaken? Was he confused, or did he actually mean 2,000 plus years? So he lied to that generation that he was speaking to. So there's lots of it's a dilemma. And so I can clearly see that God Logic isn't being honest with how he responds to people when asked about the dilemma. Now, does that make him a grifter? Well, in my eyes, it makes him a dishonest player. So it makes him and these other people involved part of the same schematic, right? that I've talked about before of, well, you have all these players on the, on the game board, or on the so-called influencer bandwagon, and they're all serving their purpose. They're all, playing their role ultimately to instill this idea of a return to tradition with this lens, or this um, purview of Christian ethics, or appeal to Christendom according to the mainstream kind of polished version of Christianity that we see in the world. So they're the people that are out there defending the Trinity. They're the people that are out there defending the church fathers, church history. They're out there fighting for science, appealing to advancements of man. They appeal to the knowledge and wisdom of men. They use scholars and academics to bolster their positions. They appeal to authority when it comes, necessary to kind of win these arguments that they have with atheists or with other sects. So they're very much on board with the whole infrastructure of what we call modernity, and kind of trying to bring back Christianity into said modernity. But of course, in doing so, they must kind of rebrandish and bring forth this kind of anemic, powerless philosophy that they sell as, the true understanding, the true convictions, the true tradition, the true teachings, but all in order to, use as a justification for our reasoning, to back our decisions when it comes to policy, because ultimately, folks, it's about making the world a better place. Well, while we're in here.
Jay Dyer. So I responded, and you have my response kind of in the middle there. I said, Muslims and orthobros, tell me how insanely jealous you are of God logic without telling me how insanely jealous you are of God logic. And Jay replied, leftist tactics again. If I say he said something correct, then I must be in league with them, lol. If I criticize someone, it's only because I'm jealous. None of you have any actual theological arguments about the true church because you war against it. You're an evangelical, lol. And by the way, the reason I said they're insanely jealous is because they both commented on Avery's motives, right? They said, aha, he's doing this because he's a grifter. And I said, okay, so we're going to just insert people's motives here. And I said, okay, so it's because you're jealous. And then, of course, he doesn't like when someone's doing it to him. So that's Jay's response. But interestingly, the Muslims involved in the whole situation are...
So I'll point something out here, because it'll become more obvious down the line here when I showed other points further down. But this idea of intent, right? So David Wood said, oh, because you're jealous. So Jay Dyer could respond and say, without telling me how insanely jealous, or excuse me, so he says, this is a leftist tactic. You're an evangelical, so that's supposed to discredit him. It's only because I'm jealous. And he kind of like dismisses it, right? None of you have actual theological
really
arguments.
Rooting for Jay here. So Dr. Malik says, it's about time Jay Dyer said this about logic, the grifting from him.
But both sides could say, well, I believe you're jealous. And then the other guy could say, well, you're lying. I'm not jealous. And then David Wood could say, well, I believe that you're jealous. So therefore, who are you to tell me that I'm lying? I believe you're jealous, so if I say it, then there's nothing wrong with it. Now, remember that, because it'll be important shortly here.
Are really rooting for Jay here. So Dr. Malik says, it's about time Jay Dyer said this about logic, the grifting from him.
So these these individuals, as far as I understand, they're Muslim, right? So they're, when it comes to quote unquote optics, right, or what team quote unquote they're on, they would be in opposition because they are against Christianity. And by default, Christians would oppose the teachings of Islam. So they're at odds, right? They're oppositional to one another, even though some would say, "Oh no, we're all the Abrahamic religions have the same God." Do they? That's another conversation for another time. But so he's David Wood is pointing out all these kind of comments that are basically congratulating and mentioning Jay Dyer for he's calling out. You know, Jay Dyer is calling out the grifters from his own camp, and they're kind of laughing because look at they're now against each other. The Orthodox and the Protestants. The grifting from him and David Wood trying to play the race card. Pathetic. Ha 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 ha. So they're praising Jay Dyer.
17, David trying to play the race card. Pathetic. So they're saying Jay is right. And by the way, Malik here. Malik is the guy who doxed my wife earlier this year, put her phone number on Twitter, her home address on Twitter. On TikTok, and was calling on Muslims to go and deal with this problem. So he's doxed me and my family. He's doxed Avery and Christina.
Okay.
Spoke at most recently. He rip the Quran. Now they don't. That's a lie. But he was clearly trying to get Muslims to go and attack them. Dr. Malik, the doxer. Hey, Andrew, I'm the Muslim Diddy Wood is going to use to try to burden shift off the fact he doesn't know his religion and sits with a Zio syndicate. Truth is, this rapist has been ripping Qurans for too long, and we done baked him up, and we expect you to finish the job tomorrow. So Muslim Dawah guys are rooting for you to finish.
So that was a comment towards Andrew Wilson. So they're encouraging and kind of praising Andrew Wilson. They're like, "Oh yeah, finally go tomorrow in the debate and finish him off." Meaning the debate that they're having there right now.
Finish off what they started, and then you got Sam jumping.
So Sam Shamoon from his own platform, he's coming out and saying, "Oh, yay, Jay!" Even though Jay and Sam Shamoon are somewhat at odds with each other. In this, they came together under the banner of fighting against these stupid, silly Protestants and this and that. And, the grifters, yes. Jay's on fire, exposing this self-confessed sociopath and rapist who still need to go to jail since the crime claiming to have become Christian doesn't absolve him from legal responsibilities. So they're all kind of using this this situation to throw shade and to throw in their own little hoorahs, right, against apparent Protestants, right? Because Sam Shamoon is a Catholic or part of the Coptic Church, or who knows, but he claims he left Protestantism, and he's now on the side of either Catholics or Orthodoxy, but I'm not sure if he's actually claimed a particular tradition, but he denounces Protestantism. Amazing, right? So the infighting continues.
In here, Sam normally hates Jay, but now that Jay is coming after us, suddenly likes him. He says, "Damn, Jay is on fire." Christian doesn't absolve. God logic is a grifter. In my debate with him, I asked Avery if he accepts biblical inerrancy. He refused.
So further, David Wood is just making kind of the point that there are many kind of players coming out and condemning God logic and basically the whole Avengers group associated with God logic and the kind of Christian apologetic side of things, if it's not or Eastern Orthodox or Catholic. So they're taking the opportunity to come down using Jay Dyer as kind of like the cheerleader, and they're just egging him on, encouraging him, saying, "Yeah, finally somebody had the guts to call him out and this and that." It's like, what? So I won't play much more.
And I will debate you on these issues you have with him. I believe you mischaracterized.
Okay, so then here's a back and forth with Andrew Wilson. Andrew says, "I'm a fan of Dyer and will debate you on these issues you have with him. I believe you mischaracterize and unjustly criticize him." This is toward David Wood. So apparently, this is where Andrew Wilson finally agrees to debate David Wood. And he says, okay, let's do tomorrow. I'll take the BS prompt just to watch you evade the actual topic when I bring it up. So, of course, Andrew Wilson is the champion for these kind of misfit, rough, on the edges Christians who just love him for his comedic, entertaining, abrasive, kind of bold and to the point, no BS personality, smoking, drinking, cussing, son of a gun.
And unjustly criticize him. I said the issue I have with him is that he's Christians support the lies of Andrew said, okay, let's do tomorrow. I'll even around for everyone. Being cheered on by the Dawagandists as they attack him because they want him out of the way and they want to discredit him, and you actually help them, then I think you got a problem and you need to correct it. But the Orthobros don't think there's any problem here. All right.
So that, right, I'll play that again because what he just said there pretty much sums up David Wood's critique about the optics of what Jay Dyer did and why he considers that to be wrong.
As they attack him, when I bring it up, if you are actually being cheered on by the Dawagandists as they attack him because they want him out of the way and they want to discredit him, and you.
So he's saying that the Dawagandists or the Muslim apologists want Avery gone because apparently Avery and God Logic's channel is just been hammering at the on the Muslim front, and they want to see Avery gone. So they jumped on the opportunity to discredit him, and they're using Jay Dyer as a kind of ammunition to say, oh, see, even the Christians, even the Orthodox Christians think Avery's a grifter. And then David Wood is like, this is wrong. You shouldn't be going and agreeing with the Dawa channels because it basically makes all the work that we're doing seem or minimize it because you're just giving ammo to the opposition. Now, it's going to be super interesting to see how Andrew initially engages back with him. But then I'm going to play another video of a recent, we're talking 2 days ago on Sunday night, where Andrew Wilson makes the most astonishing blunder, showing his two-mindedness, showing his double-standardness, showing how truly he does not believe what he says showing that he only uses rhetoric and particular narratives / arguments necessary to appear as though he is winning debates, to appear that he has this kind of vast knowledge, but it's all in order to arrive at a particular optic, thus showing that he is in fact a provocateur, an agenteur, an agenter. He is a means by which to influence the perspectives of people in order to bring them on board with a particular conviction of what supposed Christianity is, and provide support for those who will then, when necessary, flex the authority necessary to bring about kind of this new era of ethics / policy / governance / marching orders.
You actually help them, then I think you got a problem and you need to correct it. But the Orthobros don't think there's any problem here. All right.
You all good?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know about any of this shit because I was asked to come on and debate a specific prompt. That prompt specifically has nothing to do with any of this. Nothing. The prompt is: should Orthodox Christians support the lies of Darwinists who promote violence against Christians and threaten to rape women? That is the prompt we agreed to, correct?
Yep.
Okay, great. And you're affirming that they should not, obviously, right?
I would say they should not.
Okay, great. So my position on this, since you're trying to burden shift to Jay Dyer or something, which is strange because your audience was just adamant that I would be the one who shifted the burden, yet it's you. I would say sometimes they should. And I brought 3 logical examples for.
So I mean, this is why debate is so cynical, because they will dig their heels in when it comes to, oh, the burden of proof and this and that. You made the claim, so you have to provide it, and I won't have to provide for you. So it takes away kind of the the flow of conversation, and making it very mechanical. And of course, to them, they're like, yeah, well, words have meaning, and this and that, and philosophical entailments, and this and that, and epistemics, and this and that, and ontologies, and this and that, and well, brute facts, and must this, and this and that, and metaphysics, and back. So they get lost in like the whole kind of meandering of, mind, but all in effort to manipulate perspective, to shape how you're supposed to either receive or reject whatever it is that they're discussing. So to me, it just seems very simple, right? The prompt apparently was like, should Christians be supporting kind of like these vile, behaviors? Um, they mentioned like sexually assaulting women and doxing people or something like that. Both of were examples that David Wood said of like that these kind of dawa individuals have done against individuals within the Christian apologetic side of things. And David Wood saying, yeah, we shouldn't support the opposition when they do these behaviors. And Andrew Wilson was like, yeah, of course. Your position is to say, yeah, we shouldn't. And then Andrew's like, yeah, well, sometimes we should. And he's about to say how.
For the 3 times that sometimes they should. The first is a legislative example. Dearborn, Michigan's new representative, let's say Muhammad Oman, husband, brother, cousin to Ilhan Omar, has threatened to physically assault and rape Arizona's Orthodox Christian woman, Christina, who has also said he secretly loves Planned Parenthood because it kills the white Christian babies. Though his supporters don't like this, in an attempt to garner more support, he proposes the No More Abortion Bill, which, unsurprisingly, bans abortions nationally. This will only be able to pass due to him getting support from his wife, and her getting the rest of the squad to flip, causing it to barely pass the House and likely go through the Senate. Should she support this bill and his lies to ban abortion? As an Orthodox Christian, knowing that he is a Darwinist who threatened to rape women and wants violence on Christians? Or should she go against this lie and allow millions of unborn babies to die? That's a moral conundrum, David. Should the Orthodox Christian in this scenario support that Darwinist and his lies?
Now, this is a very kind of, what's the word? Very manipulative. But of course, Andrew would say, well, this is just to test your logic. Hypotheticals are to test your logic. Yeah, but you could use hypotheticals to just to provide the optic that somebody might agree to something that they wouldn't ordinarily agree to, just for the sake of needing to answer the hypothetical. Because if the person's like, yeah, just answer it. So you can kind of trap or corner somebody into answering a hypothetical so that the optics come across as them kind of negating their original position. But that can be pretty manipulative sometimes. And if you don't know, if you don't know basically what the foundation of the hypothetical is, then you might most oftentimes fall for the trap and then end up kind of looking ridiculous, right? But that's the point of, either you're entering into this world, and so most times if you enter this world, you're going to get eaten alive because you're entering into the basically the lion's den, right? Most people say, well, you shouldn't even enter the lion's den to try and kind of expect to change it or to expose it or anything like that. I would say that one doesn't necessarily have to, enter the lion's den to shed light on it. You just have to first have the conviction that the answers aren't in man. They don't originate in the wisdom and knowledge of men. Now, sure, you might find yourself maybe conversing with some of these individuals, and perhaps you can make your point, but they will always twist and manipulate your own words to try and make you look bad. Because to them, they know that it's not about being right. It's about the optics of the rhetoric, right? It's about the narrative. It's about how they can convince the audience that you are in the right. Whether it is the case that you do or don't, it doesn't matter. It's the optics. And they know that, and they exploit it. So he's going to hold David, to the fire. He's like, just answer it, please. Answer my question.
Or not. I'm just curious. Can you give me the answer, please?
Oh, you want me to talk?
Yeah, I'd like to get to the debate.
Are we going back and forth?
Yeah.
Okay, so so you're saying sometimes Orthodox Christians should support the lies of Dalwakandists who are lying about people.
Yeah, do you want me to repeat the hypothetical? I'll repeat it for you.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, Dearborn, Michigan's new representative, Mohammed Oman, husband, brother, cousin to Ilhan Omar, has threatened to physically assault and rape Arizona's Orthodox Christian woman, Christina. He also has said that he secretly loves Planned Parenthood because it kills white Christian babies. Though his supporters don't like this, in an attempt to garner more support, he proposes the No More Abortion bill, which unsurprisingly bans abortions nationally. This will only be able to pass due to him getting support from his wife and her getting the rest of the squad to flip, causing it to barely pass the House and likely go through the Senate. Should she support this bill and his lie to ban abortion as an Orthodox Christian, knowing that he is a Darwinist rapist who threatens to rape women?
Now, this is also kind of very intentional by whoever makes this type of argument, because you hear this type of argumentation from the so-called smash mouth incrementalists, right? From the abortionist, pro-life side of things, right? Where they'll say, we're okay with signing into law or signing bills or lobbying for bills that don't outright ban abortion, but as long as they are supposedly, quote unquote, on the right track towards that, we're okay with incremental victories. Because their argument's like, well, would you rather save 1,000 babies in supporting, a bill that doesn't abolish or ban or criminalize abortion, but it does provide some sort of kind of cushion where supposedly the argumentation is that, 1,000 babies will be saved, opposed to none. So it's this kind of like 50 Shades of Grey, right? The lesser of two evils. They're like, well, I don't want to not lobby for, pro-life policy, but I also don't want to outright, negate opportunities that will help the cause towards the so-called right direction, even though it's not like a comprehensive bill that outright abolishes or outright criminalizes abortion. And then you have the abolitionist side that said, no, we must not, make compromise. We must not kind of sign these bills that are kind of in bed with the devil, so to speak. Because what we should be doing is not accepting these like half truths, right? Or like half the way, right? Like 1 foot yes, 1 foot no. We should be lobbying for a complete and utter abolition of abortion, and we shouldn't be settling for less. So those are the two kind of main sides that you see. But then it's kind of slimy, right? To the person that's like, well, why don't you get into bed with the devil just a little bit, because he'll make you suffer less for a little while. So why don't you just sign the bill and convince yourself that we're going on the right track, even though he's going to keep molesting you, keep abusing you, but it might be less than you thought it would be. He won't stop, but he will do it less. So you should sign it. You should sign it. You should sign. You should be on board with that. So that's kind of like what Abe Wilson is doing right here. He's like, well, you should support, even though that that they lie, or that they have like these kind of anti-Christian sentiments, or that they want to promote Planned Parenthood because they'll abort Christian babies, this and other. But if the result is that there will be less abortions if you sign the bill that they're promoting, then you should side with the Dawaists. So this just shows that Andrew Wilson is willing to compromise for some sort of gain, right? Some sort of worldly gain. He's willing to compromise his ethical kind of infrastructure if it means that the optics are that, well, you're going to save some lives in the interim. So tragic.
And wants violence on Christians. Or should she go against this lie and allow millions of unborn babies to be murdered?
Like, you serious, dude?
Yeah, I'm serious. Can you answer my question, please?
Just to clarify, if the topic was, should you torture babies for fun, your answer to that would be sometimes, because I could come up with a situation where torturing.
But that's not the topic, David. This is.
But you would argue that, right?
Yeah, but this is not the topic.
Yeah, Andrew is exactly doing that. So David Wood is right on the money and calling him out. I think his disbelief and being like, really, dude, you went there. Like, I think it's it's merit. Like, it has merit. David Wood is rightfully calling out the kind of just how outlandish that hypothetical was, because he's right. You could kind of justify anything, and then present it as some sort of virtuous if you kind of like say like, well, if you knew that killing your loved ones meant that a whole town would be saved, would you do it? It's like, what? So you could come up with all these wonky hypotheticals, but what's really being said? I mean, why not just stick to the situation at hand? It's just avoiding. This is just kind of kicking the can further down. Like, it's not answering anything. You're just kind of stalling.
This is the topic that you and I agreed to. Can you answer the question?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying,
Can you answer the question?
I'm saying, as far as methodology and so on, if the
Can you
topic
answer
were,
the question?
if the topic were, should Orthodox Muslims torture babies for fun?
Can you answer the question?
Your response would be sometimes, because I can come up with a situation where it would save other people, right?
Can you answer the question?
But let me go ahead and grant it to you. So there you go.
Oh, yes.
You happy now?
Yes.
So your answer is sometimes, right? Now let's try to figure out.
Okay, hang on. Stop. Is the answer yes?
Yeah, I can't say.
You can't say. You're not sure. You're not sure what Orthodox should do in that situation, Dave. You're real confused about it, are you?
I'm saying, because I probably, if I wanted legal change, I'd probably go in a different route than going in that direction. That would be pretty darn creepy.
Okay, that's great. Should they go ahead and support the law if it bans abortion or not?
Yeah, it would be creepy.
Not, Dave.
You should support a law. That doesn't mean you need to support the lies.
Yeah, but you have to support the lie. She's the deciding vote here. If she doesn't support the lie, this abortion bill doesn't get banned.
I'd say go about it in a different way, man.
What is that? There is no other way.
Notice what he just said. You have to support the lie. If you want the political outcome, you have to support the lie. So he's basically admitting that Jay Dyer supported the lie that the Dawa made against God logic in order to attain the political outcome that they wanted, which is the Orthodox don't want the opposition, or their objective is to destroy, right, the evangelical infrastructure or players to establish themselves as the kind of bringers forth of this kind of forgotten light that should be now put in its rightful place. So for a time, the evangelicals served a purpose in the Americas, right? They served the purpose all with the intention to eventually bring people back to this origin, right? The origins of the true church, orthodoxy slash Catholicism. That's always been the case. So, I mean, if instead of people getting lost in this like ridiculous debate, or just the optics of the whole theater happening, and drama and emotionalism, sensationalism of whatever side you think you're on, you have to see what's actually behind this. This is happening because there's a purpose. There's a political objective in mind, meaning there is a outcome by which there is an intent for it to happen or to occur, where the apparent division of Christendom will be dissolved and brought under the same banner. But all the while not recognizing that what you thought Christianity was has been botched, has undergone surgical realignments, taking in, putting addition, subtracting over the last decades, if not hundreds of years, to the point where, people are dissatisfied enough to be searching for where to place their adoration. They no longer want to put it in, the church of the world, the institutional side of so-called religion. So they're desperate to go and find a place to where to put their conviction, their so-called spiritual conviction. And so now finally they'll have kind of like this body of authenticity and authority, rightfully calling itself the original, that will bolster and call all people back to itself. But you have to realize, well, what actually is this doctrine? If it's calling people back to the world, what kind of doctrine is it? If our Lord and Savior calls us out of the world.
With an insane, I mean, this is just ridiculous. You could do this with any
How's
topic,
it
Andrew.
ridiculous?
You could do this with any
Okay, you're
topic.
right. Hang on. Let me try it with a different topic.
Okay, here we go.
Should Orthodox Christians support the lies of these Darwinist rapists? So let's try it this way. If a Darwinist rapist says David Wood raped a 15-year-old up the ass, if they said that, let's just say, in this hypothetical, and that is morally wrong, and I don't believe the Darwinists because they're a bunch of child kid diddlers themselves, should I still affirm that statement as being true, even though I know they don't really believe it?
You're asking if you should affirm something, asking if you should affirm what they're saying, even if you don't believe what they're saying?
Yeah, even though I know it's a lie, that they don't really believe that there's anything morally bad with some guy in this situation raping a 15-year-old girl up the butt, even though they claim, hey, man, I think that's really bad. And let's say they try to pass legislation or something to ban that. And I know that these guys are lying. They think it's good. Should I go ahead and affirm the lie to get the legislation passed that they shouldn't, that these men who rape 15-year-old girls up the butt should no longer be able to do that?
I don't think you need to be affirming lies to make legislation again.
That's not my question. I didn't ask you if you should be affirming lies in order to get legislation to move. I asked in this specific case, David, would it...
This just shows the character of this man. Because in efforts to try and trap David Wood with his hypothetical, he is in fact showing you his own kind of craftiness of what he considers a logical standpoint by which to compromise your so-called morals or values because of an intended outcome. So, for example, if somebody were to kind of turn this around on Andrew and say, well, you supported Trump, did you not? He would say yes. So he would say, well, if you knew that, accepting this lie or supporting X lie would assure that Trump would get reelected or be elected, would you do that? According to what he's arguing for right now, in regards to David Wood, Andrew would have to answer yes. I am willing to agree with the lie, even if I know it's not the lie, and this and that, in order to get the political outcome I want. So it's very, very, very sad, very tragic, very kind of morbid, macabre, because it shows how men are just so easily broken by the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. Because as long as you say you can, as long as you convince yourself that what you want, it doesn't have to be a political gain. It can be anything that you want, anything that you desire. You're willing to compromise in order to achieve it. Whether it's an individual desire or if you're part of a collective and then their objective desire is for a particular outcome, then you become a member of that body and therefore you will do its bidding.
It be the case that if there was a 15-year-old,
that's why God calls you to, have your mind renewed and to basically now abide in his will, no longer seeking after your own will and desires.
By a man up the butt. And Muslims were trying to pass a law to outlaw that, even though I don't believe that Muslims think that's a moral wrong, and they're lying about that.
So he's just stumbling, and he's trying to trap David Wood. Let's push forward to, let's see here, I'm going to push it to...
You're just on, we can't say anything because we could be wrong, right?
Well, no, I'm just curious about this. I don't actually understand the position here. The position seems to be that if Orthodox people don't agree with your characterization, that Jay Dyer is somehow trying to side with Darwinists against everybody else because he said fucking bingo one time, and then you and I have to call him a cult leader, right? So maybe they don't actually agree with your characterization of how this is going down. Your response to this is they should agree with me because if they don't, they're in a cult. That's really bizarre, David. That sounds like you're in a cult
That's
and
not
are
the
making demands that you're correct.
That's not
Hang
how
on, let me finish my point. That you're correct by default. Because after all, you're David Wood. Who would disagree with you? You're just right?
Andrew, that's not how. Are you serious? I say something and then it's, you should all agree with me because I'm David Wood. And not, you should agree with me because all of you understand, do not help Dawa guys when they make things up to discredit Christians. Don't do it. That's bad. That's a bad thing to do. That's an evil thing to do.
Can you show me where Jay Dyer has ever affirmed Darwinism, where it is that Ortho Bros affirm Darwinism, where it is that they say anything, just because it's the case that they came to similar conclusions?
So he's just panicking at this point. Notice how he just, can you tell me where Jay Dyer ever approves Darwinism? Can you tell me where he does this? And you can hear the quivering in his breathing. Because what David Wood said just there is actually kind of the bottom line, the matter of fact that
all of you understand.
This one.
Do not help Dawa guys when they make things up to discredit Christians. Don't do it. That's bad. That's a bad thing to do.
Yep. So he's like, don't help Darwinists, right? So essentially, don't help the opposition discredit the side that you're supposed to be on, right? So these people, right, are apparently on the same side, as far as the core principles, but they'll fight. They'll disagree on tradition, and they'll disagree and who has the true authority, but at least in the principles of Christianity, they'll say like, sure, yeah, we confirm the Trinity and we confirm the virgin birth and this and the other. But essentially, David Wood is saying, yeah, you shouldn't go out to the opposition and approve their lie on their platforms, approving the lie that that they promote. Yeah, that's bad, he's saying. And then Andrew just panics. He's like, can you? I mean, David Wood wasn't saying that that Jay Dyer went on to the Buddy's channel to approve or to confirm Islam. But then Andrew's like, can you show me anywhere where Jay Dyer confirms Islam? Can you show me anywhere? That wasn't the argument. The argument was like, no, you shouldn't go on their platforms to confirm the lies that the opposition promotes about people on your own team, people on your own side, meaning Christians should not go on oppositional channels to, agree with their positions, to agree with the oppositional's positions, because that just gives the opposition ammo to fire back at Christians. David Wood's conclusion seems pretty reasonable to me. But Andrew Wilson is good. He's kerfuffled and doing everything possible to keep Jay Dyer's image and optics pristine because he must. He must.
Evil thing to do.
Yeah, can you show me where Jay Dyer has ever affirmed Darwinism? Where it is that Ortho Bros affirm Darwinism? Where it is that they say anything just because it's the case that they came to similar conclusions about a thing, right? How would that immediately or instantly, hang on, stop. Okay. How would that immediately or instantly make the determination that they are agreeing with Darwinism or support?
Immediately or instantly, immediately and instantly are the same. They're synonyms. So you can tell that he's just flustered. He's kerfuffled. He's just kind of delaying. He's stalling because he can't. He's like, oh, how do I? My super logical brain must refute. He must defend Jay Dyer at all cost.
Supporting them in any of their efforts. For instance, Daniel Kikikachu once said, right, that it's cleaner for men to wash their asses than wipe them with toilet paper. I agree. Am I emboldening the Darwinists, David? Am I emboldening?
This is a complete mischaracterization of the argument. So he's trying to divert. He's trying to pivot. So you can see clearly that Andrew Wilson has no way to respond. He's just kind of flustered, completely out of place because he knows he's on the losing side of this. And the reason I know that he knows is because what we will see in this recent engagement he has, and of course what he had to say out of his own mouth.
Them against their enemies because all of them universally are like, well, see, Orthodox Andrew agrees with us.
Nothing to do with this situation. Now let's have a more accurate.
So no,
let's have a more accurate parallel. No, a Dawa guy could say the sky is blue, and you could say he's right, the sky is blue, or something closer. A Dawa guy could say the universe is created by God. You could say I agree, the universe is created by God. No, you're not helping them when you do that. So let's change the situation. Let's suppose you brought up Daniel Kikikachu. You debated Daniel Kikikachu. Total massacre. Now suppose.
Yeah, it must be because I support the evil Taoists.
You're helping them. That's not the point. I mean, Tucker for years was blasting away at Islam, and now he says that the only thing Christians are allowed to do in response is submit. That is very interesting. But anyway, different situation.
Tucker sucks. What do you want me to say?
That's not. I'm saying just because someone did something in the past does not mean they're not doing something right now. Right? That's the only point. So
I'm helping Darwinists now.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, can you tell me how?
Why do you think Dawa guys are actually rooting for you?
Well, because I'm right.
You think they're doing it because you're right, and not because
So Andrew Wilson fell into his own trap. So he thought he was setting a trap up for David Wood and telling, "Oh, can you tell me how?" Because David Wood is just saying, just because you have Muslims rooting you to come and defeat David Wood and his team of so-called grifters, David Wood is saying you don't see how that's helping their cause, and Andrew's like, no, they're agreeing with me because I'm right. And this guy's supposed to be big brain, logical, MacGyver.
Because you're going after the same people they're going after.
Well, let me just there could be a case use here where,
and Andrew knows this. It's like warfare, right? They know that by supporting Andrew Wilson, they have another tactical way to attack the side that they want to see destroyed. It doesn't mean that now the Orthodox and the Muslims are in cahoots. It just means that they're allowing themselves to kind of join up in order to supposedly defeat a common enemy, which they see as, or at least, as far as the optics go, the opposition that they see the evangelicals as being. But to me, it's just theater. It's just a theater to establish entertainment, establish this kind of pseudo tension between Christendom, but it's all to bolster, and it's all ultimately to have everyone fold into the outcome that is desired by the ones who are orchestrating this ecumenical presentation, repackaging of a new spiritual era, new ethical framework by which humanity can get behind.
Where it is the case that liberals go after Tucker Carlson, and I agree with them. Do I now support liberalism? Am I emboldening liberals now, David?
If they were suppose they were lying about Tucker Carlson, and just because you were mad or something like that, you agree with the lying.
When you say lie, that's baked in to your belief. You haven't demonstrated any lie. You haven't demonstrated that Jay Dyer is lying and that he doesn't believe that Avery's a grifter.
Oh,
you have not demonstrated that.
Okay.
You just bake it in and say that it is in fact the case that he is lying, which that's nice.
Okay,
but you
so
haven't
if someone
demonstrated-
just completely makes up...
Now, Andrew Wilson's logic can be used against him because he's saying, "Oh, David, it's now your burden to prove that Jay Dyer is lying." But if Jay Dyer believes that God Logic is a liar, a grifter, then you can't say that he's lying. It's like, wait a second, no. According to Andrew Wilson and all his logical, appeals, Jay Dyer would be the one that has to provide the evidence of the claim that he's agreeing to, right? Or that the claim that Avery is a grifter, right? He would have to provide the evidence for why God Logic is a grifter. David Wood doesn't have to provide the evidence, as Andrew Wilson would like to believe, that Jay Dyer is lying. So it's funny how, they can just sling mud pies at each other, and it's quote unquote, it can be entertaining. It's just, to me, it's just painful and hard to watch because it just seems like two little kids who haven't grown up go at it, and they're just frustrated. They're frustrated, and they don't know why.
If someone completely makes something up, that's okay according to you, right? You can just make things up.
What was made up?
That Avery's a grifter.
Yeah, can you prove that Jay doesn't believe that because lies require intent?
That's just a huge, shifting the goalpost right there. When David Wood clearly asked, well, it hasn't been established, like when Jay Dyer says God Logic is a grifter. So he hasn't proven that. So, and then Andrew Wilson's like, well, can you prove? Can you prove that Jay Dyer doesn't believe that Avery is a grifter? Because lies, entail intent. So where's the intent from Jay Dyer to prove that he's a liar? What a joke! What a joke! And I've seen this tactic used by Andrew Wilson too in people that criticize him and call him a grifter, and he'll say, where's the proof? Can you prove? Can you prove my intent? Can you prove my intent? And he's like, I'll wait. Can you prove it? I'll wait. It's just, it's very sad. It's very sad to see these so-called prominent debaters just, have to rely on that tactic to fish, to slip away from criticisms and appear as though they are something when they're nothing.
If he believes it, it would just be a different sort of problem. It would just be,
maybe
I can believe anything without any evidence.
Well, then you would have a different sort of problem with it. But
in theory, I can make up anything about you and just say, I really believe it, and then that's fine. That's not lying, right?
unless I could demonstrate somehow through some sort of
Unless you
evidence
can
that it
prove
was.
it. So if I say you killed 50 people and buried them somewhere and we don't know where, you can't prove that you didn't.
Oh
and
yeah, sure I
therefore it'd
can.
be totally fine.
Yeah, sure. I can use what's called an argument from affirmation. So you can just be like, well, look, when was the date, time, and all of the various factors?
No, I just say you killed 50 people. You're a serial killer.
But do you agree with me that you could believe that?
I could believe that, and so it would just be a different problem. There's one if I'm knowingly lying, and it'll be a different problem if I just.
It's so stupid because just because somebody believes what they're saying doesn't make it true, right? For example, and David Wood has a good point of saying that. So just because Jay Dyer might believe that God Logic is a grifter, does that mean that, let's just say, it's demonstrative? It can be demonstrated that God Logic is not a so-called grifter. Would that make Jay Dyer a liar? Well, from a bird's eye view, it would be so the case that he was lying, or at least that he was wrong in his assessment. And it has nothing to do with their intent, whether they believed it or not. It's just, was it correct? Was it an accurate description, or was it inaccurate? So, I mean, all these things kind of have their place, but how does this have anything to do with, the whole context revolving around what these two men claim to be, which is Christians? These two men claim to be Christians, and yet they quibble about these pathetic points. Pathetic.
Just make things up and I believe
Great,
them. That'd be a different problem.
but we haven't moved into the different problem yet. We're still on the he lied problem. Can you demonstrate that Jay Dyer doesn't believe that? That's the question at hand.
Oh, if you want to
Can
say if you want to say he made it up on no evidence and he really believes it and he's not deliberately lying, but he's just going with something that's made up. That's
well,
fine.
you could say that you don't like his reason.
That is also accurate. The whole point of Andrew Wilson taking this ridiculous position is to try and wash Jay Dyer's public figure. It's PR. He's doing damage control. That's all he's doing. Because the takeaway he wants is for people to not look at the fact that Jay Dyer is just making these accusations without evidence, and that he's also going to the opposition to bolster his position, or to allow the opposition to attack Avery. And you can't claim ignorance here because both of these men, Wilson and Dyer, are in this so-called world. They're in the business. They know these things. They know the tactics. They know what it's all about, and yet they do it anyway.
Reasoning, fine, but that doesn't mean that he's lying.
Well, I mean, if I would say you murdered 50 people, and I think he just kind of looks like he murdered 50 people, and I could take that as great evidence, I would still think that's extremely messed up to say.
Well, I don't know. It seems to me like you're actually lying because you just negated your own position. You said that yes, it's true. I can't actually demonstrate, and so therefore have no good reason to believe that Jay Dyer is lying and that he may actually believe this. And yet you still bake in every hypothetical.
But he just switched the entire argument. It was never about whether Jay Dyer believed or not whether God Logic was a grift or not. It's that he agreed with the statement that God Logic was or is a grifter on an oppositional on an opposition channel. That's the argument, not whether or not Jay Dyer actually believes that God Logic is a grifter or not. But Andrew Wilson desperately wants and needs the optics of the argument to be that, oh, well, just because Jay Dyer believes Scott Logic is a grifter, then that makes it okay. What a joke. All right, I'm going to end the showing of that video. That video took place, or that apparent debate between David Wood and Andrew Wilson took place May 12th of this year. Now we move to the Whatever podcast. The Whatever podcast aired on Sunday, June 21st, I believe. And let's just see what he's saying now. You might ask, well, how is this related? It's all related, and you'll see how. So this person, this woman with the red dress and the helmet here on the right, she was an employee of the Whatever podcast and apparently left at some point in time. And she she did an interview on someone else's platform. She did a podcast on someone else's platform after she left the Whatever podcast. And in that interview, she apparently, talked about her experience of during her time at Whatever and this and the other. And now Andrew Wilson and the host, Brian, of the Whatever podcast are going to grill her for having done that. Now, I think you know where this is going, and it's going to be sensational. Going in line with the sensationalist, appeal of the entertainment that people like Andrew Wilson and Brian Alice and all these other debate apologetic channels or debate channels provide. What takes place here is completely tragic.
To you, and then I apologized to you for making you feel like I don't like you. I don't know. We had a little back and forth.
I miss most of this.
You know what was Benedict Arnoldish about it?
Benedict Arnold. So, Brian Atlas is saying, oh, well, I was a little bit displeased. This person's name is Felicity. So he's saying, oh, Felicity, I'm just displeased with why you went on that guy's channel. And yeah, sure, you said a couple things that kind of shed a light on me and kind of make me look bad and this and the other. And she's like, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, or this, or we already had a conversation about this and da da da. And then Andrew's like, well, this is a little Benedict Arnold. This is a little Benedict Arnoldish. And he's about to explain what that means.
What?
Is like, I think the prime guests who've come through here, I don't think any of them have ever treated you poorly.
The guests?
The prime guests.
Oh.
What do you mean?
Well, so like...
I have my personal issues with Brian
Sure.
that I won't say on camera because I feel like that's
sure, but...
So Benedict Arnold was apparently this treasonous person of history or something. I think he mentioned it a little bit beforehand, but anyway, that's why he said, this is a little Benedict Arnold of you, Felicity. Because you kind of betrayed Brian by going on that guy's channel to kind of sling mud at Brian. When you knew that it was an oppositional channel and this and that and the other.
You were more than willing to kind of throw other people under the bus, even if it wasn't Brian.
Like guests?
Yeah. And so the question
like
comes...
on this show or on the interview?
This show.
Oh, well,
on the interview about this show.
Well, can I tell you? I was told to debate girls. So I'm just going to do what I think is best for Brian.
Wait.
You would tell
You
me
were
to...
not
yeah, you
told
did
to-
tell me. You just like, you need to debate more. So I would...
Of course she was told that, but Brian's going to deny it. She was told to be more assertive, more confrontational, or to engage in topics that would get the guests talking. What gets guests talking is providing topics of contention, hot topic or hot takes that will get the guests arguing, or it'll engage conversation. So of course she was told that. And then Brian's going to deny it. No, I didn't tell you that. What I told you was to converse with them. Yeah, by bringing in contentious points of debate.
A debate.
No, I never said that.
Okay,
Hold on.
well, you can go back, but you said that. But it's not a big deal.
No, I wanted you to be like, if I stepped away from the table as I just did, I wanted you to be the person, like, 'cause you'd be sitting behind me, right? To kind of like, because
Yeah.
so
okay.
I'd rather
Let's
like
go back to Andrew.
going, not able to talk or something. That's crazy.
But that's not even the issue. The issue
Yeah,
really comes down to the idea of if it is the case that you feel like you were treated fairly, or that most
By
of the
Brian or the guests?
both,
Okay.
or either. If you go on and you say Brian treated me fairly, you're not lying, right?
Fairly as an employee?
Yeah, well, that's what you said on the podcast, was that you have no issues with Brian.
No, I don't have issues with. There's things that have happened off camera that I don't want to say on here.
Sure.
But it's not. I don't hate Brian. Like, I
But
don't
if you
have
go,
anything against Brian.
But if you go on an op program, like if you have somebody who's purposely targeting a show, and then you go on their program, it's sending out a signal, I'm against that program.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Make poop. Uh-oh, make poop. Andrew. Andrew. Tisk, tisk, tisk. How disappointing, right? But of course, no one who's his fan or supporter is going to, see this and call him out for this. So he can just sit there and tell Felicity, Felicity, shameful. Everybody knows that if you go on an oppositional channel, an oppositional platform, it's seen as that you're against whoever it is that the oppositional channel claims to be against. So in this case, Felicity, having worked at the Whatever podcast, goes on this other channel who is an oppositional channel to the Whatever podcast. Felicity leaves the Whatever podcast, does an interview, right, with this oppositional channel. Andrew is saying, oh, Felicity, by you going to this oppositional channel, now it seems as though you are against the Whatever podcast because you're going on there and you're agreeing with certain things that the oppositional channel says about whatever, whether they say it on the interview that you're having with them or it's part of the content that they produce. Oh, what a blunder. Because in this instant, Andrew Wilson was doing everything and anything possible to deter from the fact that that's exactly what David Wood was saying. But in order to save Jay Dyer's skin, Andrew Wilson has to do all types of tap dancing and, diverting and pivoting and hypotheticals and this and that and switching the goalposts and this and that, all to avoid the accountability of what he's trying to show Felicity here that she should be accountable for. Oh, how sad. How sad.
Yeah,
Something bad happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
So, like, if I went tomorrow and let's say I went to Destiny's stream and I'm like, oh, I went on the Whatever. I don't have any problem with those guys, but I know you hate them, and here's a few things I can agree with you about, or something like that. That's an op program. And so if it's an op program and I'm going on there and then I'm siding with them in any capacity towards the program I was on, it's sending out the signal I'm against them, and it's bolstering the op.
Oh, so what he's describing here is what Jay Dyer did. Jay Dyer, knowing that the Dawa Islamists are opposition to Christians, Jay Dyer goes on their channel and agrees with them about God logic, giving the Dawa Islamists ammunition against Christians. According to what Andrew's saying here, that's bad. And you shouldn't do it, Felicity. Bad, bad, bad. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Shame, shame, shame. But when Jay Dyer does it, okay. A-okay. Because the objective is to slander the group of Christians that we want to assert authority over. So it's okay when Jay Dyer does it, but it's bad when Felicity does it. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. What a shame. Because apparently, even though it's Christians, right? Apparently both of these men are Christians. Just because it's the Eastern Orthodox side, right, saying that the non-Eastern Orthodox side are grifters, it doesn't change the fact that both claim to be Christians. So the optics are that both of these men are Christian, and they gave ammunition to the Islamists to fire back at the Christian side of seeing, oh, see, look, they're divided amongst themselves. And they're disagreed with their tactics and this and the other, but all the while we're going to also attack just this side and praise the other Christian side for calling out this other side because of their grifting. How sad. How sad. Andrew Wilson, shame. How shameful.
You see what I'm
I can
saying?
see how it sends out that signal, but I mean,
Well, it
I
bolsters
said
the
how
op.
I felt.
Sure.
And
That's totally fair.
If people
I'm not
perceive it,
not even contending with the fact that you're speaking your truth or talking about the things that are issues to you. I'm just saying, from the perspective of the internet, if you're going on the op channel,
I get what you're saying.
what does
Yeah.
that send the signal out as?
I
I'm with
know.
the op. Why do you think that guy wanted you on? It was all manipulation. The entire goal. Have former employee on. How did he mark the show?
So the reason I know what I was saying here, that he knew that Jay Dyer was in the wrong, and he knew that Jay Dyer had done this specifically for the outcome and the reaction that he knew would happen in attempts to make the Protestant apologetics seem laughable and grifters, etc., etc., and apparently be receiving the praise of the Islamist side, right? The EO side, the Eastern Orthodox side, receiving the praise because they're calling out this grifting that's happening within Christendom or whatever. And the whole time, Andrew Wilson on this debate is playing the fool or the ignoramus. He's like, show me how Jay Dyer is helping the Dawa sides. Can you show me? Can you prove how I'm helping the Dawa side? Can you show me? Can you prove it? When he's telling her in such a dumbed down way. Do you notice how he's talking? He's like talking very slowly and very kind of. He's like, do you not know that if you go to the op side, if it's an op show, what are the optics here, Felicity? Let me break it down for you, Felicity. That means that, at least to the internet, the optics are that you are helping the op. You understand, Felicity? So Andrew Wilson knows exactly what's going on, and yet he chooses to defend evil. Evil according to him, because you'll see, because it comes out of his own mouth.
employee, tell all, whatever. And it wasn't even a tell all, but it's marketed that way by the op in order to cast shade. That was my only issue with it. I've always liked you. You've always been very kind to me. You've never, like, I don't think we've had any interaction that wasn't totally pleasant, but that's kind of sneaky, shady snake shit.
I didn't.
Meaning that's slimy, evil, shady snake business. So he seizes at that as that, but here he doesn't. And he makes all types of excuses and diversions to convince the audience that it's not. Jay Dyer can do it, but Felicity can't. And Felicity should feel shame. And she should now learn, God, that this is just, it was manipulative, Felicity. You were manipulated. But Jay Dyer, no. Jay Dyer did not cause, he was not manipulated, and he did not manipulate in order to get this reaction. No, he didn't. So Andrew Wilson will, of course, not publicly explain to Jay Dyer his wrongdoing, as he is right here, describing or explaining it to Felicity how she was in the wrong. Somebody should make a clip of, Jay Dyer sitting here. Just put Jay Dyer's head, right here, and then Andrew Wilson telling him, you see, it's really slimy, snake in the grass type thing here, Dyer. You shouldn't have done it.
I didn't know that he.
That's kind of sneaky, shady snake shit.
I didn't know that he was going to title it that. So
That's why you don't go on the op channel.
I get it.
But when you're in the industry,
Jay Dyer, that's why you don't go on the op channel and say bingo. Jay Dyer, that's why you don't go on the op Muslim Dawa channels and say bingo whenever they call, another Christian a grifter. Jay Dyer, you're not supposed to go on the oppositional channels, platforms, and agree with them. You're not supposed to. David, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. You're the liar, David. Andrew Wilson's just gaslight David. You're wrong. You prove me. You prove to me how we're helping the Dawa side. Andrew Wilson proved it right here. By Andrew Wilson's own words, were we given the proof that Andrew Wilson was wrong in this. So it's Andrew Wilson defeating Andrew Wilson. Amazing.
So
That's why you don't go on the op channel.
I get it.
but when you're in the industry and you are trying to just
I'm in the
get
industry.
exposure, I get it. But
What
there
op
is a
channel
green.
do I ever go on?
No, but you're different.
The Dawa channels, Andrew. So this just shows how really slimy these people are. He's like, yeah, I'm in the industry. I know these things. You didn't apparently hear, or at least you fought and you debated and you mocked and you tried everything under the sun to make Jay Dyer come across as faultless. Amazing.
What does
Everybody
that
has to
mean?
find their way. Everybody has to find
on,
their way.
this
in
whole
the
well,
industry.
I
Look,
can.
look, me and here, let me give you a perfect example. Me and Tim Pool have had way more contention between us than Brian Atlas and you have. Guarantee it. Way more contention. I am not going on Tim Pool op channels
Right, but you
to
make your
discuss
money.
weighing on to discuss with him Tim Pool show. Fuck that. That's snake in the grass shit.
I get it.
That
But when Jay Dyer does it, right? Considering the contention that exists between Christians and Muslims, and yet Jay Dyer goes to a Muslim channel and talks, agrees with the smack that the Muslims are saying about another supposed fellow Christian. And Andrew doesn't see the fault in that. What a joke. But to him, again, apparently, he's like, yeah, sometimes you have to agree with them because they are attacking a necessary uh, category of Christendom that must go. So that's why I'm willing to side with the lie and the opposition if it means that we're going to attack a mutual enemy, meaning the Protestants. Just total, just tragic worldly gain. These are men that love darkness. They are willing to compromise for their gain. So if it wasn't clear that these people do not stand for truth, they do not truly believe what they claim to believe because their works show otherwise. They might claim to be holy, righteous, Eastern Orthodox people, which they do. And by holy, I mean they identify themselves as the separate, true chosen church with the correct authority and tradition, etc., etc. But how ridiculous their positions when it comes to what they defend.
About what women want and what women say they want in dating. 50 Shades of Grey. And
Ever. I bet you I have more dating experience than this guy. I bet you I have more dating experience months ago. Brian has a dating podcast and he has very little dating experience.
Oh yeah, so just briefly, I'm going to play basically just to nail it down that these people don't stand on anything. They stand on a foundation of sand. Where was it? 340. Oh yeah, one sec.
Definitely would have reconsidered. We had this conversation already. So
Wait, I don't understand the logic of, like, let's say like fucking Carmelo Anthony was like,
oh my God.
Man, if I only had known that you would be upset by the fact that I stabbed you to death, I wouldn't have done it.
You're so dramatic.
How is that dramatic? It's just like the
Because,
logic.
please.
If I had known this
There was
thing,
no
I'm saying
non-disclosure
I didn't know
agreement.
that you didn't. I didn't know that
Irrelevant.
you didn't like him so
That's
much.
No, what this other panelist said was right on. Nail on the head. Nailed it. She's like, there was no non-disclosure agreement signed, so she can go out and talk about whatever she wants. There's no, cohesion to any type of loyalty or anything like that if she leaves. If she ceases from being an employee at this, podcast, then what binds her to it? Is she expected to, have a forever loyalty to this employer? I mean, that's why this person is right. There was no NDA signed, so what are you complaining about? And then Brian's like, oh, he's like, oh,
There's no
I'm saying
non-disclosure
I didn't know
agreement.
I didn't know that you didn't like him.
he dismisses it and he's like, irrelevant. Yeah, no, it's not irrelevant. What binds these two sides, right, is the affirming that they are Christian. That's why the optic is that if a Christian goes on the oppositional channel, meaning a Islam, right, or this counter apologetic channel, right, meaning that they have their Muslim apologetics, Christians have their apologetic channels. So if a Christian apologetic goes on a Muslim apologetic channel and affirms their claims about another Christian, that is sneaky snaky, right? Sneaky, slimy. But according to Andrew Wilson, not when Jay Dyer does it. Amazing.
So
That's
much.
completely
I knew
relevant.
you had opposing views. I didn't know he was your personal opposition.
His pinned
What does
video.
it say?
So Felicity, this is the last point. So Felicity saying, I didn't know he was an oppositional guy, this and the other, to this channel specifically, to the Whatever podcast. And Brian's response is like, his pinned video is a video of him calling me out. So in the same, right, David Wood was saying, oh, these Dawa guys have come on my channel, doxed my wife. They've said all these slanderous things of like Avery's wife, this and the other. And yet still, Jay Dyer goes on their channel, right, and is confirming, and agrees with them in their criticism against a Christian apologetic channel, right? So it's just hilarious how these men, both Brian and Andrew, are defending this apparent loyalty, this silent loyalty that should exist, right, between them and this employee, this ex-employee. But Andrew Wilson will deny this kind of loyalty existing within Christendom. He's like, no, there's no loyalty expected. Or rather, there's no kind of, we shouldn't have to adhere to an optic of being a cohesive, body, even though we might disagree on tradition and the way we do liturgy and this and the other. But overall, like, why would we be giving the Muslims or the opposition ammunition against Christianity, right? But again, showing the double-mindedness of man.
Can you tell me?
Bro, it's first off, he lies about me. He says, Brian has a dating.
Oh, but is it lie? According to let's just use Andrew's logic against Brian here. So Brian's like, oh, he's lying about me. Andrew would say, well, can you prove that this oppositional channel is lying? Because maybe the oppositional channel believes what they're saying. So how would it be a lie? See how slimy that is?
Podcast. And I'm not going to get it verbatim because I watched it months ago.
Okay, that's enough. Just complete fiasco. A complete fiasco. Theater upon theater. These people aren't authentic at all. Meaning there's no genuine loyalty to their own conviction or said claimed conviction to the faith, to what is right. They're willing to compromise at any given moment of opportunity because of gain. If there's something that they can gain, according to Andrew Wilson, whether it's something political, material, or whatever it might be, you can justify siding with the lie, siding with the opposition, if it means saving your own skin for a little longer. What a shame. I'm not angry at you, Andrew. I'm just disappointed. Just disappointed. As your followers should as well. Your supporters, your followers should awake from their stupor. And if they claim to believe God, be a follower of truth, then they should rebuke you. They should exhort you. They should call you out for your double-mindedness. and your defending of wrongdoing. So this is just in context because I've talked about Andrew Wilson before, but in general, this is a criticism about or an observation about so-called Christian the Christian narrative that is out there and the channels or the influencers that are out there supposedly promoting Christianity and what are they calling to? Because the Eastern Orthodox side of things, they're saying, well, we're calling people to the true church, and the non-denoms and the Protestant side they're calling. What are they calling people onto? They have no true authority, no true church to call people out, out of atheism or out of Islam, because what are they calling people to? They're calling people to relativist theology. But in general, it's all because it's by design. These are just provocateurs. They're agenters. They're stirring up the pot within Christendom so that the underlying kind of works of the devil can make its way to the surface and present itself as truth, when all the while it was a manipulative scheme and agenda to corrode away at the pillars of Christianity in order to basically swipe any type of claim to faith that there might exist in the world, so that people are left without a true orientation, a true edifice by which to completely bestow their trust and commitment to, and eventually there's going to be a surge of this kind of return to tradition, return to values, return to ethics, return to some sort of foundation, institutionalized political face solution, right, that people will back. And that's the whole point. That's what these people represent. That's what the whole process that we're witnessing being behind these so-called debates, these over dramatized beefs, of this channel with that channel, this personality with that personality, because both of these positions also don't even talk about what it is to actually reassess what man is doing. Are we edified upon the knowledge and wisdom of man, or are we, edified upon the knowledge and wisdom of God? Who do we side with, God or the world? You'll find that most of these people, both from the orthodoxy or the true church side or the Protestant side, they both appeal to man and the wisdom of man. So what does that say? Well, we'll leave it at that for now. God bless.